Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Janine Robertson. Today's session is a focus on goal setting and making sure you are on track with your super. So thank you so much for joining us. My name is Janine Robertson, as I said, and I'm joined by my colleague, Pat Howard. Hey, Pat.
Hey everyone, how are we going?
So I'd like to just start by acknowledging the many lands from which we come together and pay my respect to elders past and present, as well as acknowledging any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people who are joining the session. I am coming to you today from Bidjigal country, which is where I live and work, and Pat is also on Bidjigal land. So you've probably seen this one before, especially those who've joined a session before. We like to say at Smart Monday that every good presentation starts with a disclaimer. So what we want you to know is that everything we're talking about today is general in nature. It shouldn't be considered personal advice. We can't answer your personal questions in a group forum like this, but your questions really are very welcome. Now, you might have noticed that the Q&A function is available, so do please feel free to use it. And Pat's going to do his best to answer your queries as we go along, or to come back to them at the end of the session. I did just want to note as well that if Pat does need more information from you or thinks that it would be better to answer your question in a personal way, he might get you to reach out to us privately and organise that with you. So please do feel free to jump in, and your questions are welcome on any super topic. It doesn't have to be directly related to this. Okay, so we've kept today's agenda pretty simple. We want this to be a really practical session. So we've built the content around 3 key questions. What's your starting point with your super? Where do you want to get to? And how can you bridge that gap? So by the end of the session, we want you to walk away not only just knowing more about your super, but also with a clearer picture of the steps and the options that you have available to you. Now, if you've ever opened your super account, you've seen that balance on the screen and thought, what does that actually mean? Then you're definitely in the right place. And I think for many people, when you log in and see that balance, it just raises more questions than it answers. And the biggest one is often, how much do I need, or do I have enough? Today, we want to help you move closer to finding your own answer, and probably a bit more importantly, giving you those tools that you need to start taking action. Now, before we get into all the details, I am just really interested. I'm curious. I'd love to know, do you already have a goal for your super? So I'm just going to launch a quick poll. And if people could jump in and give us an answer, that would be great. You might have set a target balance. Maybe you've got a contribution goal, or maybe you've got a full retirement plan. I'd love it if you could just answer those questions. Sorry, that's just popped up on my screen. Okay, so while you're doing that, I just want to answer this kind of bigger question that I think that comes up. Is it worth setting a goal in your super? Well, there's 2 reasons why I think it really is valid. Super's a long-term game, so it is something that we can put off. But the research shows that we make more progress with goals when we set something and when we have a specific target. And your super is one of your biggest assets. So it really is something that is worth planning for and making the most of. For me, I think goal setting is about that mindset shift, that when you log into your account, those numbers make a bit more sense. You're actually sensing whether you're on track, because remember, your future salary is your super. So contributing to your super and engaging with your super is today you looking after future you. So I'm just going to, I'm not sure if I can show you those poll results, but I'll let you know the answer. 33% of you, so a third of the audience, have set a specific goal. So well done to those people. Hopefully today's session can help you refine or maybe expand on them. But the other 2/3, 66% it's looking like now, have said that you haven't. So hopefully today we can help you set some of your first ever goals for your super account. Okay. So when it comes to super, you have choices. At every age and every stage of life. So what I want you to do is look at these dials on the screen. Think of these as choices that you can make as you move through life. And there's 5 key areas to consider. Now, understanding where you personally stand on each is a really good starting point to help you set meaningful goals. So let's start with one of the biggest levers and goals. When do you want to retire? Now, there's no official retirement age in Australia. It really is up to you, provided you have the resources to support the lifestyle you want. So here's the basics. You can retire and begin accessing super from age 60. There are some conditions at age 60, but at 65, your super becomes unrestricted and you can access it. Now, 67 sometimes gets confused as being a retirement age, but that's when you may become eligible for the age pension. So, depending on where you stand and what your preferences are, you might have set a retirement date already, or you might not have. And if you haven't, aiming for 65 is probably a practical starting goal. So, keep that one in mind. Now, the other levers, how much you spend in retirement, your preferred lifestyle and what that will cost, contributions to your super, investment risks, and seeking advice, they're all other things that you can adjust along the way, which can help you set goals, reach goals, and get you on track. So, in addition to these, we talked about that balance that you see on the screen when you log into your super account. That's a really important thing to start with as well. So, knowing your current super balance, what's in your account right now. Your balance alongside these dials is the foundation for setting your first goal. Because starting with awareness of where you stand, it really can help you to make good decisions. Now remember, your goals and plans are unique. So thinking about how these apply to you is important. Okay, I'm actually going to tell you to stop. What people often do with this slide is they start writing down these numbers, and I don't want you to do that. Please put a big red X through them. And I think it's because we see these in the media all the time, and people look at these and start comparing themselves to average. Am I on track compared to everyone else? But what I want you to realize here is that averages don't tell that personal story. Averages don't account for any personal factors other than age. They don't account for income, lifestyle, retirement goals. They're not a comparison to your peers, that is, people who are like you and have similar lifestyle and preference. So, averages really can give us a false sense of security, especially if you're above the average. These are a data point, not your plan, and I don't want you to actually feel reassured by them or use them in your goal setting. I think that's real missed opportunity to set some realistic and personal goals. So, how do you find the right numbers? Well, let's take a closer look. Right. You might have seen these numbers before. This is the ASPA retirement standard, and they're often quoted in the media. But here's why these numbers are better, or why they matter more. Because unlike those simple averages I just showed you, these numbers actually factor in lifestyle and home ownership. So that makes them a much more useful starting point. So what do they actually mean? I think we see them around, you might have seen them in a media article, but what do they mean? Well, a modest lifestyle assumes you'll get the age pension and it covers basics and necessities, but not a lot extra. A comfortable standard covers a bit more, maybe some travel, some entertainment, and some extras. Now, ASFA actually do publish exactly how they've come up with these numbers, including a detailed budget. And you can read more about it online, but I just want to give you a couple of examples to give you a sense of what these numbers mean. So for a single person living a comfortable lifestyle, the budget does include, on top of the kind of basic bills and things, it includes about $150 a week for groceries. It includes $28 a week for clothing and footwear. It includes $53 a month for streaming services. So that's enough for probably 3 streaming services. And it includes about $4,300 a year, just a bit over actually, for travel. Now, travel is something that people often want to spend some money on in retirement. And so ASFA have budgeted a comfortable retirement as having one domestic holiday every year and an international holiday every 7 years. Okay, so I've given you some of that data. I want you to ask yourself some questions. Does that sound like your version of a comfortable retirement? Or would your retirement look different? Maybe you'd have more travel, more leisure, more eating out than needing that money for groceries. Maybe something entirely unique for you. Now, that's really the key point that I wanted to make here. These figures are a really great benchmark, but they're not your plan. Your idea of comfort might be more or might be less. So those numbers I just referred to have you spending as a single person about $52,000 a year, and you needing to be aiming to have $595,000 in your super account at age 67 as a homeowner. So then the important question that we asked, and was the title for today's session, is, are you on track? Are you on track for that lifestyle that you want? And how do you review those levers that I just showed you to get there? So that's what we want to explore next. Okay, these numbers, you are very welcome to write these ones down. These might help you a little bit more in your goal setting. So, of course, they are based on assumptions. They're based on things like investment earnings, fees, and insurance, and all of that is factored in. But what you can see here is quite a good guide for a single person retiring at 67 as a homeowner without debt to achieve those balances that we showed you on the previous screen. So they can be really useful for goal setting. Let me show you how I'd use them. So I am in the 45 to 49-year-old category. So that's where the guide says the balance is between 226,000 and 281,000. So if I check my balance against that, I get a sense of whether I'm on track for the lifestyle that we just discussed. But what if I want to retire earlier than 67? Well, then I might need to aim a bit higher. Now, even if you don't dig into the details of the ASFA budget, which, as I said, you're welcome to do, they are online, these numbers give you a genuine way to really test your progress and to help you set a goal. So let's assume that those comfortable lifestyle numbers did feel about right for me. Maybe I would be setting a goal of aiming for 300,000 by age 50, or even a stretch target of 350. Now, I do want to acknowledge something here. Many people, like me, have had children or time out of the workforce for lots of different reasons. And that does make it even more important to check where you stand. Because as we said, super's that long-term game, and paying attention earlier can really help you make a difference. So here's your action point. Decide if that lifestyle feels right for you. Do you want to dial it up or down? Then look at the number on the screen here for your age band and compare it to your balance. It's an easy way to set a goal, an age, and a balance. And I think a round number really helps. So aim a bit higher, aim for the bracket above, have a goal that's closer to where you are now, not just that big end retirement number. It can make it feel more achievable, and I think therefore more motivating. Now, even if these figures don't perfectly fit your preferences, they are a great starting point for checking in on your super and setting some of those really meaningful goals. Okay, so you've set a target balance and an age. So how are you going to get there? Let's just go back to those dials and have a look at contributions. You can choose to save some more now, or you can save some more later. I know that adding more to super isn't always easy, especially when retirement feels quite a long way away, and that's normal. It's called temporal discounting, and it's our tendency to value rewards today more than those big payoffs in the future. Now, short-term priorities often do win, but as retirement gets closer, people naturally start paying attention, and that's when we sometimes hear from people, I wish I'd started earlier. So this really is your chance to think about those dials, with contributions being a key one. Now, let's just think about one of the most powerful forces in super, and that is the compound returns. Now, compound means you're earning returns, not just on those contributions that you're making, but also on the returns you've already made. Your earnings are earning money. Even modest contributions can significantly grow over time because of that compounding effect. So, how do you work your way towards a target balance? Well, the contributions plus compounding to get together, they really do the heavy lifting. So, let's just have a bit of a closer look. So, for the purpose of explaining this, the numbers here really are stable. A $10,000 deposit every year and an 8% return. Now, of course, super returns aren't this steady and predictable due to investment markets, but the point here is really clear. Over time, the growth from compounding outweighs the deposits themselves. Those green bars show the interest, eventually becoming larger than the contributions. And that's why the question save now or save later, that dial that we had earlier, is so powerful, because super really does work over the long term. So if you're leaving it till later, you can still hit your goal. That's okay. But it does become a little bit harder, and you need to save more in a shorter period of time. Starting earlier gives you that time for your money to work for you and earn those returns. And that's the power of compounding. Now, we did also talk about adjusting your investment risk as one of the tools that you have available. Taking more risk can mean higher returns, but it also comes with more ups and downs and a greater chance of short-term loss. So generally, when you've got a longer time until retirement, it's more appropriate to take on higher risk, and that's because you've got time to ride out that volatility. If you haven't made an investment choice in Smart Monday, then you're already invested in our life cycle options. And this option isn't static. It automatically manages that risk for you, gradually shifting your investments as you get closer to retirement. Not everyone wants a hands-on approach to their investments, and that's absolutely fine. The life cycle option is designed with that in mind. But you do have other choices, and each of those has different levels of risk, as shown in that table you can see there. So you can mix and match, including our life cycle and these investment choices. And making a change is quite simple. You can log into your account and do that. Now, if you're not confident choosing investments, sticking with the MySuper life cycle option might be the right fit. And remember, you don't have to make these types of choices on your own. Our coach team is here to guide you through those investment options, and I'll share a bit more about the coach team in a moment. Now, I just want to close out this section before we start having a look at how you can set some goals and get yourself on track. But before we do that, I thought it was just worth mentioning this. For most people, super is added to your account regularly when we get paid, or at the minimum quarterly. And that's going to change next year with the anticipated payday super legislation. So that means sometimes your contributions are going in when markets are up and sometimes when they're down. And for a long-term investment like super, this consistency is actually a strength. It's called dollar cost averaging, and over time it really is working in your favor. So even without making extra contributions or investment switches, the regularity of super contributions does help keep you building steadily towards your goals. Okay, let's move into the second part, which I'm sure everyone's probably thinking about their personal circumstances and thinking, how do you set that goal? So we talked about all those levers or dials, and we know that in a retirement plan, there's going to be some of those trade-offs or options that you've got: retire earlier, retire later, think about your savings now and your spending in retirement. So let's have a look at how you set that goal that's right for you. Be clear about the tools and actions that you have available, and also the support that's on offer to set that goal, so that when you do open up your super account, your balance isn't kind of a mystery number. We want these numbers to stop being abstract. We want them to start being personal. And a calculator like our Smart Monday one, which you can find under tools on our website, it really can help you turn these numbers into real goals. So I've put an example up on the screen. I've got a 40-year-old female with a balance of 132,000. So that was right in line with those averages we saw that I told you not to write down. Now she's earning $100,000 a year plus super and planning on retiring at 67. In line with those ASPA numbers, she's aiming to spend about 52,000 a year. So she's going to aim for that comfortable lifestyle. And you can see those orange circles. You can see where those details have been entered. So if you were looking at the calculator, all of these tabs, you can adjust the numbers as you see fit. Now, here's the powerful part. With a calculator like this, you can adjust the levers. You can change the investment mix. You can add information about a partner. You can look at your additional contributions. You can even set a short-term checkpoint. So if you look at the yellow circle, that's showing a balance target at an earlier age. And that's a great way to turn that distant retirement goal into something that you can track along the way. Now, notice something important here. The projected balance at retirement is actually lower than the 595,000 ASPA suggests. But the calculator's including things like the age pension, and as I said, all of these take in different assumptions. But it really does give you that fuller picture. So if you were thinking about those ASPA numbers that I showed you a moment ago and thought that felt enough for you, then you can use those in this projection. But if you wanted more, you can adjust the numbers up and down. And that really is the power of this tool. It lets you set these different test cases or scenarios and see the impact of those changes just to decide on a goal that makes the most sense for you. So I want to run you through another couple of examples to show you how those dials work: retirement age, contributions, investment risk. Let's shift the outcome a little bit. So if you think it would be nice to retire earlier, you want to retire at 60. So this person has increased her investment risk. And you can see that actually it's a bit of a challenge for her. She's likely to run out of super well before her life expectancy. So what options does she have? What can she do? And this is where those dials and those trade-offs come in. She can think about her retirement age, maybe retire later or phase into it gradually. She can change her spending in retirement. She can aim for a simpler lifestyle. She can scale back some costs. She can also add more now, some extra contributions. She can look at her investment risk. Now, these choices are hers to make, and they're yours too. Remember, support and guidance is available to help you work through them, but let's look at one more scenario to see how shifting a few dials can change the outcome. So this is the same person, but this time she's planning on retiring at 63. She's also looked at her current lifestyle. She's decided, I need a bit more than that ASFA standard. So she's entered $65,000 a year as her retirement income. And when she put that into the calculator, to be honest, didn't love what she saw. So she made a change. She added $100 a week from her before tax pay into super through salary sacrifice. So suddenly the projection started to look much stronger. Now, here's the other benefit. Because she's only 40, she can also set some shorter term checkpoints. So she might be aiming for a balance at age 45 or 50. That makes that distant retirement goal feel more tangible. And this is where the ASPA numbers are helpful as well. They give you that great reference point to ask yourself, do I need to aim higher or does this feel about right? So for this person, it meant that planning for at least 320,000 at age 50, which is a bit above ASPA's guide for that age group, she knows she can revisit the calculator at any time. So what if her pay changes, or if she rethinks her retirement age, or maybe her spending plans shift a bit? And you can do the same. So at any time, log into your account, check those numbers on the screen, and then plug in everything into the calculator. Test out some different scenarios. Want to retire younger? Add it in. Want more income in retirement? Put that in too. Now, the point isn't to predict the future perfectly. We can't do that. but it is really worthwhile to help you make sense of your super, set a goal that feels real, and keep yourself on track. So, contributions, risk settings, even a partner's super, all of those dials can be added into the calculator and adjusted. Okay, now the last dial that we didn't really touch on solidly yet is advice. Now, whether you've used a calculator or not, financial advice can make a real difference. Now, the research really does consistently show that people who receive advice retire better off. And it's not just about having more knowledge, it's about really making good choices and thinking about how you act with money. Behavior to money is really a factor. And engaging with your super makes a big difference. Advice really does work. I think it's important to acknowledge that many people hesitate around financial advice because they think, oh, it's too expensive, or I don't earn enough, or I'm not old enough to seek financial advice. But in just a moment, I'm going to share with you our coach details. Advice in your Smart Monday account is included, and we can also help talk to you about some of those retirement planning things, and I'll cover that in more detail in a moment. And I want to, make sure that you understand that financial advice really can help you, whether you've looked at the calculators or not. You can access our coach service. Your salary or balance doesn't matter. And if you want a hand, it really could be one of those valuable levers that you decide to pull. Okay. So I want to just wrap this up by pulling everything together into a simple action plan. So step one really is knowing where your starting point is. So log into your account and check your balance. Step two, decide when you might want to retire. As I said, aim for 65 if you're not sure. And then think about the lifestyle that you want. How did those standards feel to you? Do you want something different? Then jump into the calculators. Test the numbers. Play around with different scenarios. Adjust each of those dials and see how they affect your outcome. And then set a nearer term goal. So don't just think about retirement at age 65 or 67. Set a milestone for the next 5 or 10 years, because it's something that you can track. It's something that you can check in on and that feels more realistic. Okay, step 5, get support and advice if you need it. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. Our coaches are here to help you with your super, no matter your salary or balance or age. And look, step 6 there, I always like to add this one in: celebrate the wins. If you hit a target, tell someone, tell a close friend or your partner, be really proud of that. There's a lot of research around goal setting and celebrating wins along the way. So I'd really encourage you to include that in your plan. Now, it's not hard to start turning super from a number on the screen into a plan that works for you. But sometimes seeking advice really is important and really helpful. So if you want some clarity, it could be a really beneficial discussion. The coach team can answer questions. As you can see, there's a number of topics that you can consider, you can speak to them about, and the contact details are on the left-hand side, or you can use that QR code to book an appointment. Now I'm just going to bring up a couple of polls onto the screen, and then we're going to jump into all the questions. There were quite a lot submitted with your registrations, and I hope Pat's got some there in the chat as well. Some people did ask about super balance at retirement and comparison points and income in retirement. So if you did ask one of those questions, I hope I've answered it. And if I haven't, please feel free to reach out. So Pat, how's that chat looking? And I'll bring these polls up.
Look, chat's looking pretty good, I'd say. I've had a lot of questions in there, so thanks to everyone for those. I think I've addressed almost all of those. If anyone wants to jump into the chat and see those, if you didn't realize the chat was there, you might see some interesting questions and answers. But no, look, we've addressed those questions there. So if anyone else wants to drop one in, more than welcome. But we should definitely pay attention to Janine's poll, please.
Okay, so pop your answers into each of those polls that I've put up on the screen. And thank you so much for being here. Let's have a look at the questions that people submitted beforehand. So Pat, I might start with some of the retirement ones.
Sure,
There's quite a lot, so I might do a bit of a
Mhm.
summary for you around these retirement questions, if that's okay.
Please. Sounds good.
Okay, so can we answer a question about tax rates when receiving your super from 60 onwards? And also, if you retire at 60 and then you need to go back to work, can you do that?
Okay, yeah, excellent ones. Okay, so the tax one, there's two ways that you can access your super when you've retired, and the tax is different. So, if you've retired and you want to take the money straight from your superannuation accumulation account, which is the one that you're paying into as you're working, the income that that generates is taxed at 15%. But once you've met the conditions that allow you to release that, if you're retired, that's paid to you with no tax. You don't get taxed on it. Um, if you put your superannuation into a pension account, one of the benefits of a pension account for people that are retired is the income, so the returns in that account are not taxed at all. And then when you do withdraw your money from that, that's not taxed either. So they're the two scenarios available. And the other question was about if you retire and then you return to work.
Hmm.
Yes, that happens. Say you've met your conditions of release, so you're able to release your super, sure. And then you get itchy feet, you want to go back to work, or life circumstances mean you do need to go back to work. That happens to people all the time, and there's nothing wrong with that. You made a statement that you're retired, and then your circumstances changed, and that's totally fine.
Okay. Pat, if you don't have children or dependents, and you need to distribute your super when you die, how does that work?
Okay, yeah, again, good. So there's rules in super. You nominate what's called a beneficiary, and they have to be dependents, which is a certain group of people. Let's say you didn't have anyone that met that definition. You can nominate to leave your super to what's called a legal personal representative, and typically that would be your estate, and the benefit of the super would be paid into your estate and then distributed in accordance with your will or whatever you've put in place there.
Okay. Now we've got a question here. I'd like to learn how to invest better. How would I go about that?
Okay, excellent. Look, there's certainly plenty of things to read online. You've done a great job coming today and understanding that you've just got options available. But in Smart Monday, I'd suggest the best way to do that would be reach out to the coach team, which is my team, and just talk to us about how you feel about investments, what we've got in Smart Monday. We can explain that to you, and then you can start to understand, inverted commas, how to invest better. And there's no better. You will help you learn how to invest better for you, so to achieve your goals. And that would always be the main thing, is to get the best for you.
Thank you. Okay, there's two questions about seeing last year's returns and total returns that you've made since you joined Smart Monday. How do we find that type of information?
Okay, so on the Smart Monday website, if you go to the investments tab, which is along the top, once you open that tab, there's an option to look at returns. We publish returns on a monthly basis, so you'll be able to look at the options that you're in. And if you're not sure what option you're in, you can log into your account online and see what you're invested in, and then you can look at the returns there. So that's published on a monthly frequency, so you can see that. That's always available. And if you want to understand your returns since you joined Smart Monday, what you'll see that in your statement each year. That's the one time that is published, and the statement summarizes the contributions you made that year, what your starting balance was, and then over the course of that 12-month period, also what the return was on that. The other thing you could consider is if you've been in one investment option the entire time, you could simply look up the investments online and look at the return over a period of time and know that that's the rate of return you would have received.
Awesome. Now, Pat, the next topic is one of those ones that comes up all the time. So, about self-managed super and
Mm.
property. Okay, so um, is there a benefit in using a self-managed super fund compared to a retail industry fund? How do I set up an SMSF? Is it more viable? So there was quite a bunch of different questions about that. So do you think you could just give us a quick summary?
Yeah, I can give you a really high level, and being an advisor saying, hey, this is not advice kind of thing. Because in Smart Monday, we don't provide advice on self-managed super funds. So just to be really clear around that, if you did want to set one up, you'd talk to an accountant and an independent financial advisor. You do need a good team around you to set a self-managed super fund up, there's a lot of really essential compliance work that goes with that and ongoing reporting and obligations of you as an individual. So you do need professional support to set one of those up. Look, are they viable? Well, yes, in the right set of circumstances. It's certainly a popular way for people to save for their retirement, but it depends on what your personal goals are. Certainly, under a certain balance, they're probably not viable. It depends on your motivations to do that and what your goals are. So that's a really general answer because it's one we can't answer. But if you're curious about it, seek support and someone can guide you through that and you'll have a better idea of maybe if that's the right thing for you or not.
Yeah. And as we said before, Smart Monday does have some different investment options and different things are right for different people.
Exactly.
So take a look at what you've got now and yeah, make sure you've got that support around you. Okay, so a couple about property. Is it better to contribute to super before or after buying a home? Should I aim to have a positively geared investment property for retirement? So a few things about property. What can we help with there?
Okay, so should you buy property before investing more in your super? Absolutely. Everyone's going to be different. I think that's a really key theme of today is you need to do what's right for you. And that, Janine, that's different to what's right for me and
Yep.
everyone here. One thing I would highlight is people don't necessarily know that they can actually make additional contributions to their super and then withdraw some of that to help save a deposit for a first home. So maybe for this person questioning if they're looking at buying a first home, it might be a situation where they can use their super to help boost that. That's called the First Home Super Saver Scheme. And if you're curious about that, reach out to us and we can just explain how that works. But whether contributing more to your super now or to a property now, it's very everyone's individual. So unfortunately can't answer that one, but an independent financial advisor might support you around that in fleshing that out. And what was the next piece of that
Should
question
I
again?
aim to
Sorry.
have a positively
Oh,
geared investment
yes.
property
Okay.
for retirement? And is that income then taxed differently to super?
Oh, okay. Excellent. So having multiple income streams in retirement, that may be beneficial. Whether you purchase that home with funds that you might have chosen to invest in your super through your working life, and which of those is a better option? Again, really big picture, and there's no one answer for that. In terms of the taxation, if you own a property, you need to talk to your accountant about how that's taxed. But typically, if you own as an individual, it'd be taxed at your marginal tax rate, which may potentially be higher than the tax rate you pay on investments from, say, a superannuation account or a pension account. So, yeah, the tax rate would be different.
Okay, so speaking of tax, besides salary sacrifice, are there other tax minimization strategies in super? Then there's a
Okay.
second question that's similar, Pat.
Okay.
What are the main difference between concessional and non-concessional contributions?
Yeah.
And another
Okay.
question about salary sacrifice. So it kind of all wraps up together, but if you
Yeah.
want me to go
Okay.
through them individually, I can do that too.
No, well, if that's the common theme, let's talk about that. So, um, you can make contributions to your super. So, salary sacrifice is really popular, and a lot of people understand what that is, and that reduces your personal taxable income. So, it reduces your tax burden at the end of the financial year, and also it allows you to boost your super savings with a reduced rate of tax on the contributions going into your super. Now, you can also do that from the money that gets paid into your bank account. So you can make a personal contribution and you can contribute that into the fund and then potentially claim some of the tax differential back on that. So it works out effectively the sort of the same as a salary sacrifice, but it just means that you can make extra contributions from your bank account. And then you're saying the difference between concessional and non-concessional
Yep.
contributions.
Yep.
So there's a cap each year on how much you can contribute to super and receive a concessional tax benefit, which at the moment is $30,000 for each financial year. Doesn't mean that you can't contribute above that. And there's a range of rules around maybe, unused caps from previous years, but I won't go into that now. But you can make a non-concessional contribution, which simply means that you contribute that money into your super and it goes in. And that's that. So you don't get any tax benefit on it, but it does allow you to boost your super balance. And as we've discussed, balance in super and that compounding over time and that reduced tax on the income from that can be really, really consequential. So they're the two types of contributions that are available.
Okay. So this one's on the same note. If I'm close to exceeding my contribution cap, how do I check?
Okay, so if you want to check, there's two scenarios. If we use the example that you have one fund, which is Smart Monday, which the majority of our members, that's the case. You can log into your account and you can log in and go to your menu and pick contributions from the menu. And inside that, you can check your cap. So we'll keep track through the year of the contributions that have gone into your fund, and we'll tell you how much cap is available from that. If you do have more than one fund, you will need to also then check with that other fund and do those calculations yourself. And if you're looking to use caps from previous years, you can log into your ATO online and the ATO will actually advise you what cap space you've got available. So there's a few pieces to that, but you can do most of it online. And if you're unsure, we'd always just say reach out to us and we'll help you through it.
Awesome. That wraps up most of the questions that we received before the session. If you did ask something that hasn't been answered here, you are welcome to reach out, or we might reach out to a couple of people directly who had some very specific questions as well. But yeah, please do get in touch with us if we haven't been able to answer your question. If there's nothing else in the chat there, Pat, can you see that?
Just refresh it. Refresh. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we've had a few good ones come through. So while I was yabbering on there, we've got more, which is great. So
Awesome.
I'm happy to answer them. And if obviously people want to drop off, please
Yep.
do. Let me just start from the top though. So I've got Peter. Peter says, is there a cost to changing investment options? Yes, there is. So there's no flat rate. Hypothetically, you said you wanted to change. There's not a flat $5 fee or anything like that. But there's what's called a buy-sell spread, which means when you sell an investment, there's a small fee involved in doing that. That's a percentage of the value of the investment. And when you buy one, it's the same scenario. So if you do move between investments, there's a very, 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 very minor cost, but there is a cost. It's just part of the transaction. It's calculated as a percentage of the funds that you're buying or selling. Um, Kasturi has asked, do we have income protection insurance by default? It will depend on who your employer is. So, Katsuri, if you want to reach out to us afterwards, we can double check that for you and confirm whether you have that by default or not. That's no problem. Okay, George has asked if already my employer contributes 30K to my super, would that cap my annual super contribution and would I not benefit from contributing any further? So if your employer contributes $30,000, for instance, they're going to use up your full concessional cap. Doesn't mean that you couldn't contribute further and potentially receive the benefit of compounding over time, but you wouldn't necessarily receive the benefit of reduced tax on that individual contribution. But George, there's other considerations there as well. There's it's called Div 293 tax, depending on your income. So again, if you want to reach out to us on that, there might be some other elements there that you need to be aware of, but I won't go into that now.
Yeah, there's also carry forward contributions and things like
Exactly.
that.
And I
So
know
it's a
yeah,
bit too personal, I think.
like they're common things, but it'd be
Yep.
a lot to talk about. Okay. Wiley has asked if the super is converted into a pension, is the remaining balance still invested and does have potential to grow? Yes, absolutely. So, Wiley, if it was you and you're transitioning from your accumulation account and transferred your balance into a pension account, for instance, part of that process, you'd actually be asked what you want to be invested in, and you'd have a reasonable option of different investments to choose from, with the goal potentially being to continue to grow that balance for you. And that's something that we can give you advice on, for instance, if you're interested in what your strategy might be in the pension phase. But yes, your balance is invested. It's not just sitting in a bank. Um, Okay, Puneet has asked, how do we calculate inflation to be part of the contribution as the cost of living keeps going up? By the time you reach that age, it may not be enough. Yeah, look, in these projections that are often made, they do factor in inflation. And one of the reasons that you invest in super rather than just putting money in a bank is the goal of the majority of our investments is to outperform inflation by X%. And that's actually how we phrase it in our investments guide because, yeah, you want to get ahead of the cost of living so that when you do come to retire, you're not only got enough, but you've actually built beyond the cost of inflation. But when we do advice and the like, we do factor that in for you as well. But that's a really, really good question. Things aren't going to be the same price as they are today forever. They're invariably going to go up, and you need to be able to keep pace with that.
Right, we're right on time, Pat. Is there anything else in there?
Oh, look, there's a couple, but what I'd say is I think if we didn't get to your question, feel free to just reach out to us in the coach team as the details that Janine put there, and yeah, we'll help you out as much as we can.
Thank you again, everyone, for being here today. Thank you for your time. I hope that you can go away and play with the calculators and set your own goals. And as Pat said, reach out if you do need some more support. Thank you.